Let's talk about some confusing grammar, and I promise you will learn something new. And if you enjoy learning new things and improving your skills, please subscribe, turn on notifications. That way I can become your teacher. My name is Wes. The channel is Interactive English. It's all about trying to help you reach your fluency goals. And today, I would like to clear up some confusion, specifically when it comes to different grammar concepts and as well as some certain grammatical phrases. Now, if you would like to get the lesson notes right next to me, you can click on the link down below in the description, join our email community, and you will then have these notes in order to review. If you're already a part of our community, don't worry, I've emailed them to you. You can check your inbox. So let's go ahead and jump into it. This is a quiz lesson. I want you to participate, write your answers in the chat, in the comments. I didn't wake up this early. So this is going to be multiple choice, perhaps make it a little easier, and then I'm going to go into why this is the correct answer, talk about some of the slight nuances between these different phrases and the grammatical concepts. So I didn't wake up this early. Are you going to say A, used to, or B, used to? They both sound the same. Used to and used to. It's a little bit of a trick question because we're talking about the verb used to, which can be either A or B. But in this case, the correct answer is A, used to. I didn't used to wake up this early, okay? I didn't used to do it. Now, let me give you a little more detail between used to as a verb and used to the adjective. Now, used to as the verb, often it's going to be used in the past because of the meaning. It is an ed verb in the past, so it's going to be spelled U-S-E-D, used to, because it means that you are referring to something that existed or repeatedly happened in the past, but does not exist anymore. Look at these sentences right down here. I used to wake up early. Okay, I used to do this thing in the past. So often you're going to use this verb in the past. In this case, because I'm talking about the negative and the conjugation is with did, that is my past. I did not used to wake up this early. And in this case, I'm just using the base verb. The other thing I want to point out, which makes this very confusing grammatically, is that used to, U-S-E-D, can also be used as an adjective. And that means that it refers to something that you're maybe not familiar with or accustomed to, like I'm used to running in hot weather or I'm not used to running in hot weather. Either way, whether it's the affirmative or the negative, when you're using it as an adjective, you're going to spell it U-S-E-D. So something to keep in mind when talking, especially when talking about that verb, used to. Here's the next one. Your voice is soothing. Can you read this story? Are you going to say, can you read this story to me? Or can you read this story for me? This, to me and for me, these are phrases that I think are often confused, and I completely understand why they're confusing. So think about this specific situation. Your voice is soothing. Can you read this story? What do you think? A, to me, or B, for me? The key here is, I think somebody saying like, your voice is soothing. So that's a compliment. They like listening and hearing someone else's voice. So in this context, I would say, wow, your voice is soothing. Can you read this story to me? And A would be the correct answer. Now let's get into the weeds and talk a little bit about to me versus for me. Now, this is a quick example. Again, if you want these notes, check out that link down below in the description. Some of these may overlap one another. Let's go through them one at a time because I think this is important. To me, We use this to emphasize how something is perceived, like that's news to me. You can also use this to express an opinion. To me, your plan is not going to work. In this case, you could also think of the expression, it seems to me your plan is not going to work. Movement, bring it to me, and something that impacts you personally. That's how I'm labeling it. If it can happen to you, it can happen to me. For me, when this is something that is done for your benefit. Can you do the homework for me? And this is why I think if you're asking somebody, can you read the book for me? I don't know if I would use it in the context like, oh, it's for your benefit. And that's why I tried to give you that hint of somebody thinking, well, your voice is soothing. Please read the story to me. Something you could also use for me to satisfy your needs. It's really helpful in order for me to get ahead. All right, it's going to help me. And then affects you personally. This is too spicy for me. Now, let me give you some examples as to when you could use either one. And these are some subtle differences, some slight nuances. So I'm comparing your perceived opinion versus how something affects you. And that's the key word. So if you say, this problem sounds difficult to me, I don't know how to solve it. Again, your opinion, it sounds difficult to me. You could also say, this problem is too difficult for me, I can't solve it. Again, for me is really referring to you as an individual and not really your opinion. Well, it sounds difficult to me. How about this one? This is important to me, you must help. You could tell somebody, look, this is important for me, you must help. When using for me, the emphasis really like on the individual, like, ooh, I really need this, all right? It's important for me. And then finally down below, this is something I hear a lot of people that they take my course and we talk about vocabulary and somebody says, well, this vocabulary is new to me versus this vocabulary is new for me. Again, both of them are correct. It really just depends on what you're trying to say. In this case, I think it's more common to use to me. This is new to me. To give you an example, when it comes to usage of to me and for me, let's just take that phrase and we can use Ngram Viewer to compare the frequency. It's new to me versus it's new for me. As you can see, it's more common for somebody to say, look, it's new to me. Something is new to me. But once again, this is an instance when I think people can commonly confuse these two, and a lot of times they are interchangeable. It's not like there's one wrong answer. It really just depends on what you're trying to say. How about this one? I started learning English an early age. Are you going to complete this sentence with A, since, or B, from? I started learning English an early age. Since or from. Once again, when I'm working with people and coaching them, when it comes to their English, this is something that I hear people make a slight mistake. So in this case, what I would say is you're going to use be from. I started learning English from an early age. I think most of you guys rock that one. I'll throw out some shout outs to Kaio. Good job. Good to see you. Joanne, Ava, Mr. Bianca. Perfect. So let's talk about why. The difference between since and from. So we're going to use from to refer to like the starting point of an event, an action, or journey. You know, something is going to continue versus since, in which case we're talking really about a specific point in time. Look at these examples. If someone were to say, the doctor will be here from 10 a.m. tomorrow. So starting at this point onward from 10 a.m. versus the doctor has been here since 10 a.m. In that case, I'm using the present perfect to refer to this point in the past. Or down below, the exhibition runs from March to May. It's running from this month to this month. All right, that is the action, the journey, if you will, versus the exhibition has been running since March, that point in time. Again, I think these words are sometimes confused and when people are having a conversation, a discussion, and then they just end up using the wrong one. The next question I have for you is, we decided to go out. The rain. Now, I'm giving you three different choices. A, in spite of. B, despite. Or C, both are correct. What do you think? We decided to go out. The rain. How would you best complete that sentence with, what do you think? Well, I guess I don't want to give it away. Technically, every answer is correct in this case because, well, the real answer would be C. Both are correct. You could say we decided to go out in spite of the rain, or we decided to go out despite the rain. But if you said A or B, technically you are also correct. You can use that to complete this sentence. The difference between these, I pulled this from Cambridge. I thought they gave a really concise explanation, and I provided some example sentence down below. In spite of and despite are prepositional expressions. In spite of and despite have a similar meaning to although or even though. They express a contrast between two things. They are both more common in writing than speaking. Despite is a little more formal than in spite of. And we usually use in spite of and despite with a noun. So again, I could say they arrived to the airport late despite leaving in plenty of time. And I'm following it with that gerund. They arrived to the airport late in spite of leaving in plenty of time. Both of those work in this example. Here is your next question. She's New York City. She'll be back tomorrow. Talking about the difference between been to and gone to. Just looking at those, you know that we're, in this case, I'm referring to the present perfect based on the conjugation. Those are past participles. She's New York City. She'll be back tomorrow. What do you think? A, been to, or B, gone to? The key here is the second sentence. When I give you that extra information that she'll be back tomorrow. Because out of context, just with that first sentence, it really could be either one. We don't know. But the fact that I'm saying that she'll be back tomorrow means that the correct answer is B, gone to. She's gone to New York City. She'll be back tomorrow. Excellent. Julia, TJ Leaf, Mehmet. Perfect. All right, I love it. Love all these answers. Just keep them coming. Keep practicing. So what's the difference between been to and gone to? You're going to use been to describe a completed visit. Something that it's happened, it's over. I have already been to the store and now I'm back. It's complete. We have been to India twice in the last year. All right, you went there, you came back. When talking about travel, I think it's very common for somebody to use been to because you're having a conversation and you say, oh yeah, I've been to New York City, or I've been to Argentina, or I've been to Italy. And at that moment, you're not there. You've already come back. It's complete. Versus gone to, you're describing a visit that you have not returned from yet. And that is the key part when it comes to gone to. In our example sentence, I said, in this case, she'll be back tomorrow. She's not there yet. She's still in New York. Therefore, you would say gone to. Or again, think of these other examples. He's gone to the toilet. He'll be back soon. He's still there. Or you just missed her. She's already gone to bed. So she's gone to bed, has not come back yet. In those situations, you're going to use gone to. I think it's very common saying, oh yeah, somebody's gone to the toilet or they've gone to bed. Hopefully, again, that really clears up any confusion, especially if you were thinking that the answer was been to. How about with these prepositions? Always a little tricky. Did you watch my new lesson, YouTube? Are you going to complete this with in, on, at. These are very common prepositions. We use them all the time, every day when speaking. I think it would be challenging to have a conversation and not use in, on, or at. Did you watch my lesson? My new lesson? YouTube. Technically, this is my new lesson, but there was one last week if you want to go check that out. So we're talking about YouTube, and when we're referring to YouTube, TV, in that case, you're going to use on. Did you watch my new lesson on YouTube? Great job, Surjit, Angela, Gopal, perfect. Let's look at, I'm not going to go through all of this, which again, if you want to have this information, you can download get these lesson notes and join the community. Let's just look at the first one of each one. So generally speaking, in, with an enclosed space. So you're really surrounded on all sides, like it's used to talk about locations within a larger area. If I told you, I live in the city, the city would be that surrounding area, and I'm enclosed in the city. I would say I live in the city. If we're moving to on, we're talking about a surface, attached to or touching something. These are really with, I realize like preposition of place refers to a position of any surface. The cup is on the table. And you use it with all those other ones down at the very bottom, on with media. That you are watching something on TV, or in this case, you watch my new video on YouTube. So at the very bottom, you see on with media. And then at, generally speaking, we were talking about a point, a specific location or a position used to refer to a position or location. If I said, I work at the library, right? That is the location where I work. In, on, at, there are, so again, these are general rules that you can follow as to when you should use these different prepositions. What do you think? There is a bear in our neighborhood, right? We're using in because the neighborhood, that is the enclosed area. There is a bear in our neighborhood, sometimes rummages through our garbage can. If you're unfamiliar with the verb to rummage, it's a fun verb to use. It means to look through something, typically like carelessly, without much thought, and you are rummaging through it. What do you think? A, that, B, which, or C, who? And wow, all right, Gapcam. I am incredibly grateful for that super chat. Awesome. You made my day. You helped make all of this possible. That is amazing. So we're talking about relative clauses. That, which, who. There, again, it can be tricky because technically there is more than one answer. However, I am going to go ahead and tell you that the answer is that. And let me explain, because I can see that many people put which in there. You're answering which. I would say there is a bear in our neighborhood that sometimes rummages through our garbage cans. Now, which is okay if you use which. I will say that I think it's more common in British English than especially in the US, and I'm from the United States. The way that you would often come across with these relative clauses is the general use right here. That, when referring to people, animals, or things, right? In this case, we're referring to the bear, which, when referring to animals or things, and who, referring to people. So because we're talking about an animal, you're not really going to use who. That is often preferred when we're talking about a restrictive clause. This means that the information is needed, and often you're going to use that or who. I say it's preferred. If we go back to our sentence, there is a bear in our neighborhood, all right, that kind of sets it up. That sometimes rummages through our garbage can. In order for me to express the full idea, we need that information, because I want to express that the bear does this and maybe is causing problems, that rummages through our garbage can. If we're talking about non-restrictive clauses, information that is not needed, and typically it's going to come between those commas, you'll use which or who. These are general rules. Again, If we're talking about a little more formal, which I think British English is compared to the US, I would say that which is also correct. That is preferred, especially in the US. And I would almost say that even in British English, I think a lot of people would still say that in this context. But you would hear people use which as well. I know that a lot of people, especially those that I teach, have more of a background in British English, which is why a lot of people think of that, or which in this case. But again, good information to know. These are just slight nuances when it comes to those relative clauses. What do you think about this question? At the store, we need to pick up some fruit. Now I'm putting them in the parentheses, apples, bananas, and watermelon. Am I going to use EG or IE? This is more, this is more writing, because if I'm having a conversation, I'm not really going to say EG or IE. So this is specifically when it comes to writing. But again, these are commonly confused, EG, IE. So in this context, what do you think? At the store, we need to pick up some fruit, apples, bananas, or watermelon. Which one would you use? Excellent. Liam, Markarak, Angela, Toli, we're talking about EG. So EG in this context, we're really just giving examples, because it means for example. It stands for exempli gratia. These are, again, I think really from Latin. It means for example. So if I were having a conversation, that is what I would use. I wouldn't say EG, I'd say for example, apples, bananas, and watermelon. Here's another example. I love eating exotic fruits. If I were writing EG, a durian, passion fruit, horn melon, guava, and jackfruit. These are all would be considered exotic fruits. I've had most of them, not all of them. I'm not a big fan of a durian. It has a very powerful smell. Whereas down below, IE is an abbreviation for id est, which means in other words. So the fact that they came up with something like, I'm going to mess this word up. This is actually a real word. Hippopotamonstrosquephidophobia. Okay, I really botched that. I.e., the fear of words shows that psychiatrists do have a sense of humor. So there is an actual phobia, a fear of long words. And when people were coming up with this name, they just jokingly gave it this ridiculously long name. I kind of, again, showing that they have a sense of humor. This is an actual word. It's not one that you're going to use in conversation. You might just say you have a fear of long words. To follow up on this joke, I thought I'd show you this little comic, I'm Afraid of Spiders. That's called arachnophobia. And that's true, in case you didn't know that. What are you afraid of? And the person says long words, and he says, oh, that's called Hippomostrasa squefid. Yeah, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. And then the other person, because they're afraid of long words, is like, oh, make it stop, please, help. So again, that is more for writing when thinking about those abbreviations, EG versus IE. How about this next question? All applicants submit their resumes by the 1st of the month. Again, this is a slight nuance. Are you going to complete this sentence with must or have to? I don't want to get into it. Obviously, I will get into it and talk about the slight differences, but think about the situation. Which one do you think is more appropriate? And I'm going to say more appropriate because technically there's not a wrong answer. It's just in this context, which one would be a better choice. All applicants submit their resumes by the 1st of the month. Excellent. Alvatina, Takayo, Atuska, sorry. Well, glad you liked that. Nice. That's a good example of that word. Must. So if you said have to, you could hear people use that. Again, I don't want to say it's incorrect. It's not. I think in this context, which would be a little more formal if a company is saying this. They're probably going to use the word must. So let's talk about some of the slight differences between must and have to. We're going to use must when something is required. You must report to training camp by the end of the week. It's really like an obligation. You could use must to express a conclusion or deduction. If I told you, like, wow, you must be thirsty after that intense workout. Or finally, a strong recommendation. You must go see the movie. Now, have to, if you want to express necessity, something that you have to do throughout the day. It's very common in casual conversation. I have to make a dentist appointment. That is something I have to do. It's just a necessity. Or a past obligation. She had to wait in line for over an hour. If I'm talking about a future obligation, I'll still use have to in the future. I will have to excuse you, or you will have to excuse his poor behavior. And finally, when making another recommendation, you have to go see the movie. So keep that in mind, that just a recommendation, oh, you have to go see the movie, which I think is what most people would say, versus like a really strong recommendation, you must do this thing. You must go see the movie. So again, these are some slight differences in this context because I'm really talking about something that's more required. And that's why I would say that if a company were saying this, they'd say all applicants must submit their resumes by the first of the month. If you and I are having a conversation, in which case it's a little more casual and I'm just telling you this information, then I might use have to and say, yeah, they said that all applicants have to submit their resumes by the first of the month. So just something to keep in mind when it comes to that formality and what you're trying to express. We are going where no man has gone before. This is it's a TV quote that I stole, and perhaps some of you may recognize it. We are going where no man has gone before. A, to go boldly, versus or B, to boldly go. How would you complete this statement? Again, if you're really into older TV shows or this specific TV series, then you probably have heard this before and you know the answer. Now, wow, a lot of people are really going for A, to go boldly. Because, all right, if you're going to hear this, again, I took this from the quote. And the correct answer would be B, to boldly go. We are going to boldly go where no man has gone before. This first came about from Star Trek, I believe in like 1966. And it's a long-running TV series. There have been some movies. And this is a statement that comes up, to boldly go where no one has gone before. So a lot of times people I think many years, people have been taught like, look, this is not accurate. We cannot split infinitives, but that is exactly what we're talking about, split infinitives. I took this first part from Merriam-Webster. That's why I put their little logo there. A split infinitive is an English phrase in which an adverb or other word is placed between to and a verb, as in to really start or to finally start. If you really dig into the research, technically there's not anything grammatically wrong with split infinitives, even though I think in the context of a classroom, many instructors would be, oh yeah, you shouldn't split infinitives. So once again, the thing that I like to clarify is preferred, or what is correct, or how many people would use it. So preferred, she decided to quit her job immediately. You see, we're putting that adverb at the end. I think that's very common. However, in just casual conversation, colloquial, you still could hear somebody say, she decided to immediately quit her job. I almost think when you split the infinitive, it's adding a little emphasis because you're really highlighting immediately. She decided to immediately quit her job. It's still correct. Or the preferred, the doctor told me to check my blood pressure regularly, but also correct, the doctor told me to regularly check my blood pressure. I'm splitting those infinitives. Something to keep in mind. Did you catch fish today? How would you complete that question? Did you catch some fish today? Or did you catch any fish today? What do you think? A, some versus B, any. These words, again, I think when you're looking at it, you're probably going to be able to think about it, pick out the correct answer. However, I notice when I'm in the middle of a conversation, somebody's talking, and then they end up just using the wrong word. They'll use any instead of using some, or they'll use some when they should use any. So in this case, excellent, Talal, Eva, Daud, Mama, perfect. We're talking about B, any. Did you catch any fish today? Let's dig into some of those nuances. In general, you're going to use some when making affirmative statements. I'm giving you a couple right there. I have some extra pizza. We have some questions. In general, you're going to use any when making negative statements or asking questions, such as the one that we just looked at. Did you catch any fish today? Or a negative statement, I don't want any pizza. Or somebody asking, oh, are there any questions? And then somebody responding, yes, we have some questions. Of course, with English, there are always exceptions, and this is what makes it very confusing. So an exception would be like you're offering something. Instead of using any, you're going to use some. Would you like some tea? Would you like some coffee? I'm asking a question, but in this case, I'm going to use some. And then there are just some common phrases, useful phrases like that some plus a noun. You're trying to say that something is impressive. That's some pig. This is a famous statement from the book Charlotte. What is it? Yeah, Charlotte's Web. And then some is another expression that you may hear. They paid us $1,000 and then some, referring to extra things. Some exceptions with any, with conjunctions like if or whether. It's an affirmative statement, but you would use any. Please tell me if you have any questions. So again, are there any questions? But if you use a statement, we have some questions, or do you have, or I'm making a statement, please tell me if you have any questions. And then again, this useful phrase, I think there was another one, I didn't really have room, but by any means necessary. We must win by any means necessary. That you're going to do everything you possibly can in order to win, by any means necessary. What do you think? Which question is grammatically correct? We'll see. A, who do you believe? B, whom do you believe? Which one is grammatically correct? And notice I'm emphasizing grammatically when I say that. So that is a bit of a hint. Grammatically correct. Who do you believe or whom do you believe? The fact that I'm probably emphasizing it tells you which answer I'm going for in this case. Somebody put both. I guess, yeah, that would work. Grammatically correct. That because I'm saying like grammatically correct, not just which one is correct, you would say B, whom. Whom do you believe? Why is this? Well, you're going to use who when referring to the subject of a sentence. For example, who would you like, or who would like something to drink? If I can just take who, a quick little thing to say, if you're trying to figure out which one to use, who or whom, if I replace it with a subject like he, she, he would like something to drink, she would like something to drink. That tells me, okay, the subject, I should use who. Or my dog, who is very friendly, again, this is a non-restrictive clause. My dog, who is very friendly, plays with children. He is very friendly. She is very friendly. I'm going to use who. Whom refers to the object of a verb or preposition. To whom is the letter addressed? It does sound very formal, a little Shakespearean, but once again, if I replace it with an object, the letter is addressed to him. The letter is addressed to her. I'm going to use whom. My dog, whom children like to pet, is very friendly. Children like to pet him. Children like to pet her. We use whom. Now, overwhelmingly, when somebody is just having a conversation, people are going to use who. I would say it's even becoming more common in writing, and it's one of those things that you'd have that argument, not that it's like wrong or right, but is it acceptable or unacceptable? To point this out, or to give you an example, because when we go to Ngram Viewer, this is actually taken from written English, not even spoken English. And we compare these two, who do you believe versus whom do you believe, you're more likely going to come across who do you believe. And I think, especially if you're having a conversation, you're going to hear people say, who do you believe? Instead of whom do you believe? Whom sounds a little more formal. It even sounds a little more old-fashioned. But again, I would say it's still something that would be more common in British English than American English, even though I feel like in the UK, you're going to hear a lot of people say, who do you believe? So I know I just went through a lot. These are 12 different grammatical phrases or even grammatical concepts that I want you to keep in mind. If you want to get these notes, please join our community. You can access them and download them. If you're already a part of the community, check your inbox. I've sent them to you. And of course, now is the moment of truth. I don't want you to go away just yet. I want to know how you did on the quiz. So I'm going to put this question in there. How did you do on the quiz? And I'll give you a few choices. I rocked it. And that would be like maybe 100%. Or I did well would be 75%, let's say. And, well, maybe I'll give you 4 choices. Okay, would just be 50%. And I learned a lot of new things. With all these lessons, I always just hope that you learn something new. That is always my goal. And for that, I'd say 25% or less. Let me start the poll. Let me know how you did. I'm always interested to kind of gauge and see where everyone's at. But even if you got all of them right, as we dug in to some of those slight nuances, again, my hope is that you always learn something new. And once again, I want to give a huge shout out to Gabcam for that very generous super chat. Love it. I'm gonna go ahead and heart it right there. But let me know what you think. Let's see what some of the results are. It seems that for the most part, you guys did pretty well. And you knew most of these. If you enjoyed this lesson or you enjoy some of these grammar quizzes, please hit that like button. That tells me that I should do more lessons like this in the future because they're helpful, because they're helping you fine-tune your English skills and improving your overall English fluency. Quite a few of you rocked it. I don't want to say I'm surprised. I think many of you are very proficient in English. So, but I'm glad to see that for the most part, people did well, you learned something new, or you did okay. So thank you so much for joining me, being with me today.